Are you constantly checking your work messages even during doctor's appointments, finding yourself rearranging your entire schedule again to accommodate someone else's needs? Or living in that space between one flare-up and the next, just trying to prove that, yes, you can still do this, you can still keep up. Friend, if you're nodding your head right now, you might be stuck in survival mode. And it's not the kind of survival mode you might think. Today, I'm sharing the exact process that I've used that's helped entrepreneurs like you move from that crisis mode or survival mode to creating a business that actually supports you in thriving. So grab your heating pad, your cozy blanket, and maybe some tissues because we're going to have a really honest conversation about what it means to dream again. Welcome to Chronic Illness CEO, where we're ditching the hustle culture and rewriting the rules of entrepreneurship to work for us, not against us. I'm Jessica Brown, a business strategist who knows firsthand what it's like to grow an online business while managing chronic health challenges. If you're done with cookie cutter advice that keeps you trapped in the cycle of push, crash, and flare, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll explore practical growth strategies for creating sustainable success. So grab your cozy blanket, your favorite warm drink, and let's discover what's possible when we stop fighting against our bodies and start building businesses that truly support our lives. Let me tell you about my friend Kelsey. She is an absolutely brilliant, kind, and compassionate person who is managing multiple chronic illnesses. We're talking endometriosis, POTS, Lyme disease, mast cell activation syndrome, you name it, she probably has it. She also runs a consulting business providing program management support for online-based companies. Now, from the outside, she might look like she's got it all figured out. Is she working from home? Yes. Does she have a flexible schedule so she can go to doctor's appointments and take care of treatments as needed? Absolutely. Is her business successful in paying the bills? Yep, you can check that one off too. But here's the reality. She's constantly shackled to her laptop, checking Slack and email at all hours. She's trying to manage team meetings through POTS flare-ups with vertigo. And she can barely keep up with some of the household basic tasks that she wants to do, like walking her dog or laundry. And it's not that this is imposed upon her by her clients, but rather Kelsey chooses this because she's grateful for the flexibility she has. And also, she wants to make sure she proves herself valuable enough for them to continue to engage in her services. At the beginning of the year, I asked her what would she like her life to look like this year? And she immediately began rattling off certain things that she needed to survive, not how she might thrive. When I asked Kelsey what thriving would look like for her, she couldn't even imagine it. The very concept of life without weekly flares or having unscheduled time or not running between doctor's appointments and work commitments, it felt so foreign that she couldn't even picture it. She needed to take some time and really think about it. My friend's story illustrates something that I've seen repeatedly. Without a clear path forward, we can get stuck in survival mode. And while Kelsey's situation might seem unique, the pattern of pushing through, proving our worth, and prioritizing everyone else's needs above our own is something I've witnessed in almost every entrepreneur managing chronic illness. You know what's funny but not so funny? From the outside looking in, so many of us appear to have it together. Our businesses are running, clients are happy, and people assume we must be healthy enough since we're functional. But friend, I know what's really happening behind those polished Zoom calls and professional emails. Have you ever had someone say, "Well, you look fine to me," not realizing that you used every ounce of your energy just to show up for that one meeting? Or had folks assume that because you can work at all, your illness can't be that bad? Meanwhile, you're calculating exactly how long you can push through before you collapse once the camera's off. Have you ever canceled a doctor's appointment because a client needed something ASAP? Or pushed through work when your pain was so bad you could barely focus, just because you promised to meet that deadline? I see you nodding. I've been there too. And let's talk about that voice in your head for a second. You know the one. It's constantly telling you that you're not doing enough, even when you're running on empty. Have you ever felt that bizarre guilt spiral where you feel guilty when you work because you should be resting, but then you feel guilty when you rest because there's so much work waiting for you? It's like you can't win either way. What about those well-meaning friends who ask how you're doing and you just default to "I'm fine"? Because it's exhausting to explain that today is a good day, but tomorrow might be a completely different story. It's like, how do you explain that you can deliver amazing work one week and then barely function the next without sounding flaky? The truth is, when we're stuck in survival mode, we're not just surviving our symptoms. We're surviving all the emotional stuff that comes with it too. The constant guilt, the endless explaining, the mental gymnastics of having backup plans for your backup plans. That's exactly why I created the 4 Ps framework we're diving into today. It's not just some fancy business strategy, but as a path forward, actually enjoying your business again and building something that feels good in your body and in your heart. Because friend, you deserve to do more than just survive. You are meant to thrive. So how do we actually make the shift from surviving to thriving? It starts with getting honest, sometimes brutally honest, about where we are right now. Before we can create sustainable change, we need to see our current reality clearly. without judgment or shame. Let's start with a few questions that might help you recognize your own patterns. And to do that, we got to ask ourselves some hard questions. When was the last time you pushed through a flare because you felt guilty about taking time off? Or rearranged your entire schedule again to accommodate someone else's last-minute request? Maybe because you're hoping that they'll be willing to do the same for you should you need to ask. When was the last time you felt like you always had to be on to prove that you were still capable? And when was the last time you found yourself unable to think beyond getting through the next week, the next day, or even the next hour? This is what survival mode really looks like. And it's not about doing too little or the bare minimum. It's about constantly doing too much, always trying to prove that your chronic illness hasn't made you any less valuable, any less capable, and any less worthy. In survival mode, you're living between flares, constantly trying to recover from one while preparing for the next. You're unable to think creatively or futuristically because all of your energy goes into managing the present. You're making unsustainable choices just to keep up appearances. And you're feeling obligated to be available 24/7 because you're grateful for people's flexibility or patience. You're constantly trying to prove your worth through overwork. Now, the trick about survival mode is sometimes it can look like success from the outside. You might be making enough money to cover your needs in healthcare. You might even be achieving goals. But if you're constantly operating in crisis mode, unable to think beyond the next challenge, that's not success, that's survival. And moving from survival to thriving isn't about doing more or pushing harder. In fact, it requires the opposite. So as we move into our framework, I want you to know this is exactly why we start with prioritize. We need to see clearly where we are before we can create meaningful change. Prioritize is where we're going to first acknowledge our current reality. We're identifying what is actually essential. What is the bare minimum that we need? And then we need to understand our true non-negotiables because we've got to take care of those first. Once we've gotten clear on setting that foundation, now we need to look at how we manage our energy. And this takes us to the second P, pace. This is where we're really getting strategic with our energy management. Think of it as in you are the CFO of your energy bank account. Every decision needs to support your sustainable success. So pacing involves getting honest about your true energy capacity, not what you hope it will be. Building in real buffers, not just emergency spaces. What I mean by that is that we need to include regular energy revitalizers, activities that actually give us energy rather than just let us rest and recover. Maybe that's gentle movement, connecting with a friend who gets it, or spending time in nature. These aren't luxuries or self-care. They're essential fuel for your body and therefore for your business. And the third part about pacing involves setting and maintaining boundaries. Now remember, boundaries aren't about controlling what others do. We can't control anyone else but ourselves. Boundaries are about how you will respond to certain situations. They're like your personal operating guidelines. For example, you might set a boundary that you're going to check your client messages twice a day. And you're going to let your team know that you have office hours. And that's the only time that you're going to be checking Slack and email. Now, the client can still message you whenever they want. The boundary is about your response, not their behavior. They can send you the message, and they'll know that they'll be able to expect that you'll respond to them during your next office hour time slot. Now, once we've got our pacing structures in place, now we need to look at what needs to be adjusted. And that comes to the third P, pivot. This is where we start making intentional changes to support our thriving. It's not about completely overhauling everything at once. It's about making strategic shifts that align with our energy and goals. So pivoting is identifying what's working and what isn't working, and then maybe continuing what's working and changing what isn't. It could be creating systems that support your health or making intentional shifts in your business model. It could also be adjusting strategies based on the different season when your energy may fluctuate more or less. Once you've created these new structures, you're now ready to move on to the fourth P, peace. And this is where I feel true freedom happens. When you're no longer constantly putting out flyers, you can finally lift your eyes to the horizon and start thinking about where you want to go. Finding peace means that you're allowing yourself to dream again. It means you're creating sustainable success on your terms with your boundaries in place. And it's trusting what your body is communicating to you and your ability to discern what it's saying. Each of these P's builds on the one before and creates a solid foundation for sustainable success. But please remember, this is not always a linear process. You might move back and forth between these stages, and that's completely normal. The key is having a framework to guide you back to peace when challenges arise. Let me show you what this could look like when you've moved through all four P's and found peace within your business. This isn't about achieving perfection. It's about creating a business that can flex with your needs. Let's say you're in a good energy season right now. Your symptoms are either being carefully managed or maybe your symptoms are in remission. You might be attending group exercise classes and traveling and exploring. And you might even be able to take on more exciting or challenging work projects because you have the capability to work more. Now, in a challenging season, thriving might look very different. Because of more frequent flare-ups, or maybe there's some new symptoms that you're trying to find the right treatment for. Perhaps it's doing gentle yoga instead of taking that group cycling class. Or maybe it's finding low energy, low effort ways to connect with people. It could also be creating systems that work even when you can't. The key is having the framework to adjust your business as your needs change. And this is what peace looks like. It's not the absence of challenges, but it's the confidence to handle them with grace. And right now, I'm putting these 4 Ps into practice myself. When my health crisis hit in 2024, I literally had to come to a halt with all activities until I could figure out exactly what pacing would look like for me. It was so frustrating because I didn't know what each day would look like. Even though I was low energy, my energy levels were far from consistent. There were some days when I literally couldn't get off the couch, while there were other days where I felt like, okay, I can take a walk. And then sometimes as I'm walking my dog, I had to sit down in the middle of it. And it took a while to adjust to this new reality and gain peace in it. But it was through doing these 4 steps that I was actually able to achieve that peace. And I'm putting these 4 Ps into practice in 2025. And if that's something that you're interested in following along with, then definitely subscribe to this podcast. But you also might want to hop over to my YouTube channel where I'm sharing a lot more behind the scenes and basically me implementing this real time. You can find the link to that in the show notes. This week, I want to give you a practical way to start implementing the 4 Ps in your own business. We're going to create what I call the 4P roadmap. So you need 3 pieces of paper. On the first page, title it Prioritize and Pace Worksheet. And I just want you to list your current commitments. Note your energy drainers. Identify your flare triggers. Write down your current coping mechanisms. And let's just get a picture of what it looks like. On the second page, title it Peace Vision. What would a good day look like? What would a challenging day look like if you had the proper support? What would your ideal work schedule be? What boundaries would you have in place? And on the third page, title it Pivot Plan. And this is where you think about one boundary you could set this week, or one system you could put in place, or what's one thing you could delegate, or what's one of those energy drainers that you could just eliminate. I just want you to choose one. Remember, the goal isn't to transform everything overnight. It's to start moving through each P at a pace that works for you. Now, my friend, if you're sitting there thinking, yes, I want this, but I don't even know where to start, I want you to know you don't have to figure it out alone. I've created a very specific and unique offer just for you. It's called the Sustainable CEO Strategy Day. Think of this as a virtual day together, and unlike normal Zoom meeting calls where maybe you feel obligated to at least get dressed up from the waist up and have your hair done and your makeup, all of that is completely optional. In fact, I highly encourage pajama pants, fuzzy socks, and your most comfortable shirt. Wear a bonnet, have your hair up in curlers, makeup, no makeup, it doesn't matter. It's not about the aesthetic or outward appearances. It's about getting at the heart of the matter, which is all inside. We're going to walk through each of the 4 Ps together, from getting clear on your priorities to finding peace with the business that truly supports you. We'll do this by taking a look at your current business setup, assessing your energy management, identifying key opportunities, and creating a sustainable strategy that works for you. No cookie cutter solutions, no pushing beyond the limits, just practical, personalized strategies that honor both your business goals and your health needs. You can visit chronicillnessceo.com to learn more and book your session. Now, whether you're ready to book a session or not, I just want to remind you, my friend, that you weren't created just to survive. You were created to thrive. And yes, that's possible even if you have 1 or more chronic illnesses. Now, next week, I'll share a powerful decision-making framework that helps you choose which business strategies are worth your precious energy right now, and which ones might be better saved for a different season. This framework has been a game changer for my clients who felt overwhelmed by all the options and the should-dos in their business. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you're loving this episode and want to help more entrepreneurs with chronic illness discover that they don't have to sacrifice their health to build a successful business, and it would also be a huge help for this new show, I've got 3 quick ways you can help. First, hit that subscribe button. It makes sure that you don't miss any upcoming episodes and lets this platform know that our content is worth sharing. Second, if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Those ratings and reviews aren't just nice to read, although they totally make my day. They actually help push this podcast up in the algorithm so other entrepreneurs with chronic illness can find our cozy little community. And finally, if you know another business owner who's tired of the push, crash, flare cycle, share this episode with them because, friend, everyone deserves to know that there's a better way to build a business that truly supports their life. Until the next time, I'm wishing you a gentle day.